we are joined by an exceptional guest.
While working at UNICEF Korea, I think everybody knows what UNICEF does, I became deeply interested in development cooperation because I saw it as a meaningful way to contribute to global progress. When I started to work in the field of development cooperation and began to visit low-income communities, especially in the rural areas, I observed women carrying enormous burdens. If I remember the defining moment in my career, once I entered the workforce, men were given more opportunities. Promotion system was quite challenging for women. And also when I got married, I realized that, our society is still very patriarchal. It was that Korea's transforming from a recipient into a donor is quoted as a very successful case in development cooperation history. Korea's ODA is like BTS. Well, Ewha-KOICA and Ewha Womans University partners with KOICA. Ewha was established. It aimed to educate everyone. If we say one woman, it will create a different world. Leadership is not simply about attaining higher positions, positive social changes, and advocates for vulnerable populations. You're about to cry now.
Yeah, it's very emotional to me because you know how much I love you.
We stand together, hand in hand, building dreams across the land. I like the way you show the path where hope and love will grow.
Welcome to another episode of HYIERI. HYIERI brings global perspective to the forefront policy, leadership, and innovation. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land which we operate. I'm Jayatri Gunaratna, your host of today's program, joining from Perth, Western Australia. Today, we are joined by an exceptional guest, Professor Haelim Cho, a professor of the Graduate School of International Studies of Ewha Womans University, Seoul, South Korea, and the director of Ewha-KOICA program, also an expert in international development cooperation, gender equality, and migration policy. With over 3 decades of experience working across governments, international organizations, and academia, she has also collaborated with institutions such as UN Women, IOM, and KOICA. Professor Cho, welcome to HYIERI Australia. It's my great pleasure to have you here with us today.
Very, very glad to be here with you today as well. Thank you for that generous introduction as well, too.
So, to begin our discussion, Professor Cho, let's discuss briefly about your professional journey before we move into other segments. So, let's speak about what inspired you to work at this intersection of development cooperation, gender, and migration. And also, was there any defining moments in your career that shaped you to focus on gender equality and international development?
Oh, there's a lot of question in that one question. So I'll start from the first one about my professional journey. Well, while working at UNICEF Korea, I think everybody knows what UNICEF does, I became deeply interested in development cooperation because I saw it as a meaningful way to contribute to global progress. The idea of countries partnering with one another, sharing knowledge, experiences, and resources to address common challenges resonated deeply with me. But development cooperation is a very broad field, as you know. And over time, I found myself particularly drawn to some subtopics, which are migration and gender issues. My interest in migration is partly personal, I would say. Having lived abroad during my childhood, I experienced firsthand both opportunities and challenges that come with mobility and cross-cultural adaptation. So that's how I became interested in migration. And I also wrote my doctoral dissertation on migration policies. My engagement with gender issues developed somehow differently, though. I must confess that I did not initially come from a background in women's studies or feminist scholarship. I think largely because I did not personally encounter any significant gender discrimination in my immediate environment. Like in
Yeah.
my family was very liberal. My father even favored me over my brothers and so on. However, when I started to work in the field of development cooperation and began to visit low-income communities, especially in the rural areas, I observed women carrying enormous burdens. So, like fetching water, wearing tight skirts because of their culture, performing agricultural labor, managing household duties, yet receiving very little recognition for their contribution. And so these experiences reminded me of my grandmother's generation and made me more aware of inequalities many women still continue to face in many areas of the world, parts of the world. So from that point on, I became increasingly committed to understanding and addressing gender disparities within the development context, I would say. If I remember the defining moment in my career, mm, especially that focused on gender equality, well, I said that it was from the first-hand encounter in the field, but not in my career, but a defining moment that I thought that gender issues are relevant to someone like me, even who experienced very low discrimination while I grew up. Once I entered the workplace, I felt that there is a very strong patriarchal nature and culture in the workplace. Men were given more opportunities for better work, let's say challenging work. Promotion system was quite challenging for women. And also when I got married, you know, I realized that, oh, our society is still very patriarchal. It was just my family, which was very exceptional, but my in-laws were different. So those moments all together with my career, work with development, I think forged my interest towards gender equality.
That's very interesting that your interest areas are shaped with your personal experience rather than just based on your academic or professional experience. Was it not everyone get to go through that kind of picking up your specific areas based on your personal experience as a yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So let's speak a bit about development cooperation first before we move into the gender and our other segments. So development cooperation models are often evolving rapidly in response to geopolitical shifts and economic uncertainties, as well as based on the growing demands for locally driven solutions. And from your experience, Professor Cho, through working with multilateral systems and national governments, how do you see development cooperation evolving globally over time, particularly in balancing strategic priorities with meaningful and long-term outcomes?
Oh, that's a challenging question. Well, I must say, and we know that we are living in an increasingly complex and rapidly changing world. What's happening today was hard to imagine a year ago, let's say.
Yeah.
All the AI and, changing geopolitical tensions and all that. Well, these geopolitical tensions, economic uncertainty, technological transformation with AI, societal shifts are all reshaping the environment in which development cooperation operates. So today, many societies are understandably focused on immediate concerns of their own economic security, their technological competitiveness, and domestic priorities. So in such a context, development cooperation and multilateralism can often be viewed as a less urgent or less directly relevant to countries. So as a result, I believe development cooperation is entering a very period of significant transformation. And while it is difficult to predict exactly what shape, what form it will take in the future, however, I still want to remain positive. I am convinced that global challenges will continue to remind us of our interconnectedness.
Mm.
So, for example, we all have experienced COVID-19. You're the COVID-19's
Yes.
generation as well, right? The COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated clearly that diseases do not respect national borders. Climate change, migration, and economic instability similarly affect countries far beyond where it initially began. So for this reason, although it's a tough time, I believe development cooperation will remain essential.
Yeah.
Only because it is the right thing to do and nice thing to do, but because it is a practical necessity for achieving sustainable development and even global stability.
Mm. Professor Cho, for that, like, we all are focusing on our main issues, focusing our economic and focusing on our own security rather than just taking care of everyone. Like, so in this kind of situation, but do you think the lessons can countries learn from each other in strengthening regional and global development partnerships with each other?
Yeah, one lesson is that meaningful partnership is not optional here. They're fundamental in building safer and more prosperous and more resilient societies. I just hope that we can strengthen and go back to the time when we valued international cooperation proactively, so that we don't wait until crisis force us to recognize the importance, but we proactively seek for that again. So it's really about understanding partnership, meaningful partnership is fundamental. I think that's the lesson.
Correct, yeah.
And I hope we don't, sorry, I hope we don't pay a huge price to get back to there.
To that, yeah, true. And also, when we discuss about policies, Professor Cho, since you have worked in the fields such as academia, policymaking, and also the implementation of the policies, like across the fields, what are the biggest gaps, in your opinion, that happens between development policy design and what actually happens in the ground, like in the implementation level?
Well, one of the most common challenges is that development initiatives are often not sufficiently grounded in the actual needs of the local communities. Policies can be designed from the top down rather than emerging from the realities of people the development initiatives are intended to serve. So in development cooperation, donor agencies frequently work through partner governments, right? Especially ODA, Official Development Assistance. They partner with the governments. And when we do that, we assume that governments accurately represent the needs and priorities of their people. While this is often true, there are also cases where governments may not fully reflect the local realities, let's say. And when that happens, development programs risk addressing priorities that are not necessarily aligned closely with community needs, which can weaken both the project and program effectiveness and sustainability.
So there's, I remember when we were learning about these theories and stuff, we always come because there's a clear gap between designing policies and the implementation of the policies in local level. Yeah. So that is, I guess, kind of difficult point for addressing when it comes to ground realities of the ODA.
If I may add, also it's not only about understanding the needs, also if you think about the whole cycle of project and policy management, it's also about monitored progress, monitoring the progress, having meaningful indicators to measure the progress quantitatively and qualitatively, and doing meaningful evaluation, honest and accurate evaluation, and then feeding that evaluation implications into the next phase of project design, policy design, is quite essential. And it's the fundamental for having successful development initiatives.
Since we've moved into the topic of ODA, when we discuss about ODA, we must discuss about South Korea's development progress. So when you discuss about ODA, South Korea's journey from being aid recipient to a major donor within a very short period, I guess within 50 to 60 years, if I'm correct, is often highlighted as a unique success story in the discussion of development aid. So we need to discuss a bit about Korea's journey. So in your opinion, Professor Cho, which aspects of South Korea's development experience and ODA model, in your opinion, what do you think offer the most important lesson for the developing countries today, like for the other countries in, let's say, South Asia or Africa or the ASEAN region, Central Asia?
Sure. Well, I know that Korea's transforming from a recipient into a donor is quoted as a very successful case in development cooperation history.
And maybe the only case, is it?
Sorry?
Maybe the only successful story, is it?
Yeah, I can't say the only, but yeah, particularly because we have graduated from the ODA recipient country list from World Bank officially. Yes, it is quoted as one of the most successful case in development cooperation history. I frequently use this analogy like ODA, Korea's ODA is like BTS. Gayatri, you love BTS, right?
Yeah.
So we're a rising star. I hope we can remain as a rising star. We'll have to see because the landscape of ODA is also changing in Korea. Well, if I respond to your question, which is about the most biggest lesson that other developing countries can learn today, if I can pinpoint to one, maybe it's ownership. South Korea's development ownership. This means that South Korea's development was not just driven solely by the government, which had a very strong leadership then. We call it developmental state, right? But not only that, but also the initiatives and the drives were supported by collective national commitment by the people to rebuild the country and to improve the lives of everyone. Had a common goal and people were actively in it. However, at the same time, whenever I hear this, we have to recognize that timing and historical context mattered for Korea's success. So Korea developed under circumstances that were very different from those facing many developing countries today.
Yes.
Therefore, I do not believe there is a single development model, let's say, that can simply be transferred from one country to another. That's a frequent mistake I think we can make. We think that, oh, it worked in Korea, maybe it works in Zambia, maybe it works in Ghana, maybe it works in Myanmar, things like that. So that has to be taken note of. But if I do need to identify one factor that played a very particular important role in Korea's development success, it would be strong commitment, societal environment and commitment to education. The Korean people highly valued education, especially women's education. But however, we have to be very cautious. Even that lesson must be interpreted within each country's unique cultural, historical, and institutional context. So I would be careful in saying out loud, this is the Korea's successful model, right? Because model means you can just copy.
But you can't apply to all. That actually connects me to my next question, Professor. Since you say that this unique model is just, you can't just copy into another country directly. If we call it as a policy transfer, do you think it becomes difficult? Is it because of cultural or political or institutional differences between two countries? And if that's the case, or if not, but do you think the factors that are more crucial in this instance, like when you are transferring a policy framework from one country to another country, if we think about within the framework of development policies?
Well, absolutely. I mean, every country has its own history, culture, institutions, strengths, challenges. I think it's everything, it's not just one element,
Not just
but
one.
the reason why direct policy transfers becomes difficult in transplanting in other countries is because of everything, culture, political environment, the timing, institutional differences. Every society is unique and different, and they hold their unique strengths as much as challenges. So if you focus on the strengths and minimize the challenges, then I think you might have a better result. But development strategies, so I could say that work well in one setting may not produce the same results elsewhere.
In another setting, yes.
Yeah, so rather than copying policies that worked in one society, countries, I think, should learn from each other's experience and then adopt lessons to their own realities. That part is important. And who knows most about it? Their own country's people. So
Yes.
ownership and bottom up and needs assessment is all they all play a very big role here.
Yes, that's really important. So that moves us to our last and most important segment, I guess. We will discuss a bit more about Ewha-KOICA program. So something I did not reveal yet is that I'm also a beneficiary of South Korea's ODA program. And I'm a very proud alumni of Ewha-KOICA program, a project implemented under the ODA policy of South Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I should say that I'm a recipient of both master's and PhD programs of the Ewha-KOICA program. So I'm a very proud alumni of Ewha. So Professor Cho, you have been a part of Ewha-KOICA program since the beginning of this initiative, was it? So, and you are the current director of Ewha-KOICA program. So, in my opinion, the importance of Ewha-KOICA program is that it focuses on women's empowerment. And each year, I know the Ewha Womans University, together with KOICA, provides fully funded scholarships for around 15 to 20 female students from developing countries, representing pretty much all the developing regions around the globe. So we need to talk a bit more in detail about Ewha-KOICA program. In opinion, Ewha-KOICA program has started around 19 years ago, was it?
Yes, 2007.
Yeah, so it's
here we will celebrate
almost coming to 20
yeah,
years.
right.
That's right. So could you briefly explain the vision behind this program, how it has evolved over the time, and what do you consider as the most significant outcomes and long-term impacts in the field of development cooperation through this program?
Oh, I'm happy that you asked that question because it's the question that I would really proudly like to share of. Well, Ewha-KOICA, Ewha Womans University in Korea is one of the biggest and oldest women's-only university. And because it has a long history, this year we celebrated our 140th anniversary as a women's-only university. I must say one of the biggest and longest histories women's university. And Ewha Women's University partners with KOICA, which is the Korea's International Cooperation Agency under Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which it's an implementing agency of Korea's official development assistance. So as part of that, Ewha-KOICA program is one of the longest running and most distinguished scholarship programs jointly implemented by Ewha Womans University and KOICA. And I'm very proud, as you are, Jayatri, and honored to serve as its director. This is my third year as a director, but I've been around Ewha lecturing in various classes, and I have been pretty much engaged all along.
I've always been a part of the program, I know.
Yeah, I think so, yes. Yeah. Well, the program's vision is to empower women, okay? As this aligns with Ewha Women's University overall. When Ewha was established, it aimed to educate every woman. So it was an individual women not as just women collectively that they focused on. One woman, if we save one woman, it will create a different world. So it's the vision is aligned with that vision of Ewha, and we invite public sector women in their junior career, working as government officials, let's say, to become leaders in their societies, like you, Jayatri. Importantly, leadership is not simply about attaining higher positions, getting a better salary, or advancing one's career. It's about cultivating leaders who use their knowledge, who influence, and create the authority to create positive social changes and advocates for vulnerable populations, not just women, but all other vulnerable populations. So over the past 19 years, we have witnessed remarkable outcomes. Many graduates have returned to their home countries and assumed leadership roles in government, academia, civil society, international organizations. If you haven't have a fancy title, let's say, others have become agents of change within their own family, or workplaces and communities. I was very impressed when we had before graduation, we had like what is it, a wrap-up session. And some of the to-be graduates said that, oh, the plan when I go back home is to first educate my husband about gender equality. So changes come from there, right? In family, well, family changes are the most hardest, but at workplaces and communities. So there are stories of personal growth, increased confidence, professional achievement. They all demonstrate the transformative power of education, I believe. And Jayatri, you are one of those success stories, I must say.
Thank you.
Yeah, having completed both your master's and PhD through this program, which is very, very rare, right, to win both scholarships, your
Yes.
journey reflects resilience, dedication, and leadership. And I know whatever you do, you will thrive in your own way. So I must say, I'm very proud
Yeah.
of you. And you yourself demonstrate the very outcome of our long-lasting.
Thank you, Professor Cho. Thank you so much.
You're about to cry now.
Yeah, it's very emotional to me because you know how much I love you and this program. Because, but as you said, it's not just the education or the title you get; it's the personal growth. I remember how my personality changed over those years. It's like
Really?
I always something I always say because in Ewha, you know the title is where change begins. So I always say this is so true. If you have been
So
into
good.
Ewha, by the end of the time you finish your course, you know how your personality change, how you grow up.
Oh, that's a
It
very good, powerful testimony. Where change, Ewha, where change begins, is a
begins.
very
Yeah,
powerful slogan, isn't it?
it is.
Thank
Oh.
you. We're living up to that slogan.
Hmm. So, our next question on our program, Professor Cho, is women's empowerment and leadership development are central themes in global development today. So we are trying to connect with the Ewha-KOICA program along with the global patterns on women's development and gender equality. So in your opinion, what ways has the Ewha-KOICA program contributed to empower women from these developing countries academically, professionally, and also, I guess you kind of answered this question already, actually. So
Sure.
yeah, do you have anything else to add?
Sure. First, as you know well, the program provides rigorous, very rigorous academic training. It's
Yes.
notorious about its rigor. And it, as also you know well, Ewha maintains a very high standard, academic standards, and successfully completing the program itself is a significant achievement.
True.
Yeah, the achievement is, I think, different from male students, participants' achievement. Because many participants in this program comes from, of course, diverse cultural and geographical backgrounds. And very interestingly, many continue to shoulder family responsibilities as women while pursuing their studies. So I have seen that even though there's a partial transformation, let's say, of care work in the family, it's very temporary or even not even temporary. It's remote caring even. I have seen students supporting their children from afar, helping with their homework online, like yelling to them and say, hey, you should do your homework, show me your homework, while simultaneously completing their own homework, their own research and own, coursework. That's one example. Other family duties like caring for their parents. Uh, that's mostly on the shoulders of women in a lot of societies. So achieving that, completing the program itself is a huge achievement, enduring and going through all the hardship and such. But not only that, academically, so far in 19 years, we have produced more than almost 400 graduates now. And that means 400 master's thesis and doctoral dissertation include one of the two doctoral dissertations of course. Many of these studies focus on students' home countries, collecting data from their own country, creating a very valuable body of knowledge on gender and development across diverse regions and diverse sectors. Not just according to sectors, it can be on economic development, climate change, humanitarian assistance, international relations, gender-based violence, name it. Across all sectors, women who have participated in our program produce that valuable body of knowledge. And whenever I see the collection, you remember the collection in our
Yes, I
like a
do.
library?
That's a huge database.
Yes, it is. We boost that. It's probably the biggest database any university holds because of the data set that we have collected in the 20 years. So that I would say is a very valuable asset. And again, beyond academics, students, like you just said, describe personal growth as one of the program's greatest benefits. It's about self-efficacy, right?
Yes.
Not measured quantitatively, but you know it and you translate into your everyday life. That develops into confidence, leadership skills, professional networking, or ability to collaborate across cultures. So many tell us that experience fundamentally changed how they view themselves and their role in the society. It doesn't have to be your own society where you're from, but you can contribute largely in the society.
Yeah. So I become a bit more emotional when
Yeah,
it brings me back the memories of the school. So since we spoke about the Ewha-KOICA program and it's about student mobility, Professor Cho, our third question, we focused a bit more about try to connect the gender and the student mobility. So since the international, in nowadays, obviously the international students mobility continues to grow, we see every time. So the students are trying to move into other countries for better education and for better life opportunities. So in this context, how do you see programs such as Ewha-KOICA is shaping the experience of student migrants and promoting the cross-cultural understanding, the idea of global citizenship and knowledge exchange between South Korea and the other partner countries? Because I personally know when you give the scholarship to the student and they come to Korea, everyone fall in love with Korean culture.
Oh, really?
I haven't met anybody who doesn't like Korea and who doesn't want to go back to Korea one more time. We all do love so much. So
very cool to hear that. Yeah. Thank you for saying so. Well, the Ewha-KOICA program plays a vital role in creating truly intercultural, international learning environment. I think that's really important. Students bring diverse experiences, perspectives, expertise even into the classroom. and that enriches the discussion.
Mm.
And broadening everyone's understanding of global challenges and opportunities. As faculty members, we always say that the program brings a very unique academic community, and we recognize that very valuable. It would be very different without international students that come through this Ewha-KOICA scholarship program, and their contribution strengthens both teaching as well as learning. So as a teacher even, I learned from so many different cases, experiences. Just through this semester, I learned a lot from African students, their experiences and their government's initiatives. I learned that role play works really well in the African setting. And whenever you want to teach about gender equality, it's kind of a long hanging fruit when you gather people under a big tree in the village and you prompt them to do role playing. So those kind of things would not come from the book. It comes from experiences and sharing those experiences. So altogether, in providing that platform through this program, I think it enormously promotes cross-cultural understanding, even mindset that everybody is a global citizen, and even in the promoting the long-lasting networks. So it's quite interesting just to see the diversity of my students, really, from everywhere, basically. And whenever I ask them, so what brought you to Korea? The answers vary. Some say, oh, because of BTS, because I like the Korean drama. But sometimes they say, oh, my friend is a Korean and she influenced me. Or they start from very simple personal experiences. But excuse me, but studying abroad is an enormous opportunity to broaden your perspective.
True.
And particularly through this program, I think students as well as faculty members all learn about each other's culture and expertise. So it's
Yeah.
essential.
And also, as you said, the friendships you build throughout the program, you get friends all around the globe. So everywhere when you travel, you go to home. I do have all my friends still in touch.
That's true. Friendship, I forgot to mention that. Friendship
Yeah.
friendship
That is also something really important, yes.
I think so, yeah.
So let's move into our final question, Professor Cho. We took quite a long time to discuss because it was really nice discussion, to be honest. So let's talking about the Ewha-KOICA program, Professor Cho. Looking ahead, what challenges and opportunities do you think and do you foresee for international education and development partnership programs such as Ewha-KOICA program, especially in responding global issues related to, if we think about gender equality, migration, and sustainable development, what could be the challenges and the opportunities?
Well, despite growing uncertainty in the global development landscape, let's say, I see significant opportunities for programs like Ewha-KOICA. That's a positive note, right? Around the world, we are witnessing debates over values, gender equality, equity, inclusion, social justice, and programs like this plays an important role in reaffirming and advancing these universal values through education, through dialogue, friendship, and leadership development, let's say. One challenge is that the impact of scholarship programs like this can be difficult to measure using conventional quantitative indicators. So in this very practical, let's say, environment where we pursue initiatives that only that matches both, makes both ends meet, sometimes it's challenging to prove the effectiveness of it. And their most meaningful outcomes are non-tangible sometimes, such as changes in confidence and lifestyles and, perception on your own role in the community and such. But if it accumulates, I think it shows, and with qualitative plus quantitative achievements measured and proved and demonstrated, I think there is a very strong understanding that such kind of programs has a very strong value. So I believe that the Korean government, if I speak for the government, recognizes the long-term value of investing in human capacity and leadership. And it has been proved through our own development experience too.
True.
So for that reason, I remain optimistic that scholarship programs such as Ewha-KOICA will continue to be a very important and resilient component of Korea's development cooperation efforts amid challenges. I know that KOICA and other agencies are going under dilemmas, whether we need to increase development cooperation or shall we not increase? Did we increase too much? Are we doing too much? Are we doing too less? We're looking at other agencies, what they're doing. It's quite a turbulent time for development cooperation. But I've heard that scholarship programs and capacity building programs will still be a winning strategy for development cooperation. So yeah, if there's an opportunity for listeners, it has to be female government officials from developing countries. We're open to you. And we trust that we will continue this program for not only 20 years as so far, but 40 years, 60 years, and be able to celebrate our 140th anniversary.
Course.
And I'm way gone on the earth, but still somebody will celebrate it. So yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Professor Cho. Thank you so much. And that concludes our discussion for today's program. And thank you so much, Professor Cho, for joining with us today. I miss your very tight schedule. I know how busy you are, but thank you so much for accepting my request and giving me time for this program.
It was a great pleasure. And I also took this momentum to reflect on my work and my career. So it was quite a meaningful time for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciated that thought. So, to our audience over there, I believe today's episode has been an incredibly insightful discussion for you as well. And Professor Cho, I believe your work continues to inspire meaningful dialogues across regions and more disciplines. I believe our audience find this very interesting and at the same time very encouraging too. To explore more about development cooperation and gender-related issues among many other aspects in the international development cooperation and international relations. So, thank you everyone for tuning into the episode Bridging Nations, Gender, Migration and the Future of Global Development today, presented by HYIERI Australia. I'm your host, Chaitra, signing off from today's program. See you in our next episode. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you.